Hello, I'm David Munro, Surrey's Police and Crime Commissioner. Thanks very much for joining us for this latest community event. I'm going to talk for 5 minutes or so and then hand over to Chief Constable Gavin Stevens of Surrey Police, and then lastly Woking's Borough Commander Inspector Dave Bentley will end up, and then of course we'll throw it open to you, most importantly for you to have your say. Before I start, I'd like to mention, of course, COVID. It's been a difficult year for all of us. Hopefully we're on the last lap, but who knows? I'd like to thank the vast majority of Surrey people for behaving just magnificently in this very, very trying times. Surrey Police have been out there explaining, encouraging, educating, and that's been enough for Surrey people, mostly. There has been a hardcore, I'm afraid, a minority of people who have not obeyed these literally life and death restrictions. And my message to them is, do toe the line, don't break the rules, and we will enforce if we have to. We hope we don't, but we will if there's no alternative. Right. I'm David Munro, Police and Crime Commissioner for Surrey. My job, in a sentence, is to hold Surrey Police to account on behalf of you, the residents of Surrey. And I can only do that if I know what you're thinking. And that's why this event and all the other engagement events we've been doing are so important. We want to know from you what you think we're doing right. I hope you agree we're doing a lot of things right, what we're doing wrong, and how things can be improved. I think we're doing a lot right, and I think we've got some solid achievements under our belt. Obviously, we're not complacent, we can always do better. But over the last 10 years, it's been a painful time. Too many cuts, too many reductions, and we've all felt that. But thank goodness, we've now got extra funding, and more officers and staff are now coming into the force. They're not all actually out there in our streets, in our communities, although some are, because a lot are still being recruited and in training. But we're on track for the pledges we made last year to raise the number of officers and staff in the force. And I'm very pleased that there's improved satisfaction amongst Surrey residents. You'll see on the slide we're in 7th place nationally. Well, of course, the force would like to be in number 1, but it's nice that we've gone up a bit, and I hope we go up further. And I'm particularly pleased that the satisfaction amongst victims remains very high, over 2/3. It's really rotten being a victim. You've got the original crime, which is a huge shock, and then you've got this sometimes painful journey to get justice. And it's so important that we stay with victims right through that journey, and I'm glad we do. Before I go on to the precept, I'd just like to mention what we did last year. Last year, almost exactly a year ago, we stood in front of residents and said, you give us a little bit of extra in the police precept, your council tax, and this is what we're going to do with it, and particularly to add substantial numbers of officers and staff to the force. And they will all be there on target by March. Not all paid for by the precept. Boris's 20,000 extra police officers, very welcome addition. They, of course, also joining the force, and we've heard from government that they will be giving us funding to do that as well. So together will make a substantial difference. And you'll see that a lot of the officers are really right down at local level. It's not all neighbourhood policing. One of the things that we all want to do is to help to improve the crime solving rate. I know Chief Constable will be talking about that later, so we're putting more resources in for that. It's not just people either. It's, as you can see from the slide, putting in a lot of more money, especially for my coronavirus support fund, helping lots of voluntary community organisations to help us get through this very, very difficult time. So, what's the deal? Government has allowed us to raise the council tax by 5.5%. And that's equivalent to £15 a year for an average Band D property. What you'll get for that is substantially more extra officers and front-facing operational staff, such as police community support officers. And together with the government funding, there'll be another 150 extra police officers, plus some staff, by March 2022. That will make a real difference to Surrey policing. More officers mean a greater effort on catching criminals. Community reassurance, you will see more officers on the streets and communities around you, and will also be able to increase the crime solving rate. That's a great prize, but I really want to hear what you think later on this evening. I'm now going to hand over to Chief Constable Gavin Stevens.
Commissioner, thank you very much, and thank you to all of you for joining us online this evening. I really do appreciate you taking the time out to show an interest in the policing of Surrey. And of course, what a year it has been. Despite the uncertainty though, I still think that it's really important for us to plan ahead. And we commenced that with these events last year. If you came along in person, then you gave us a really clear view of your expectations of Surrey Police. And I continued that conversation into the following year, when I spoke to all officers and staff and volunteers across Surrey Police to seek their views too. And the messages were very consistent. We all wanted a county that was safe, but also a county that felt safe too. I had intended to launch the new plan at the start of the last financial year, but of course, in March, we declared the major incident and our efforts were concentrated on policing the pandemic. So it wasn't until we had a brief respite in the summer that we were able to dust off the work that we'd done, share it with the broad range of partner organisations we work with across Surrey for their views too, and then in September we launched our commitments to you for the next 5 years. There are 3 sets of commitments: commitments to you in the community, commitments to each other in the force as to what sort of organisation we want it to be, and then commitments to our future over the course of the next 5 years. I'll keep you updated as work on this progresses, and in fact we did our first quarterly review at the end of last year, and we published an update that in January. So if you haven't yet seen that, please do take a look online at our social feeds to check out the progress in the first quarter. I'll come on to talk about it in a little more detail, but first of all, I really just wanted to pay tribute to the efforts of our communities, to all of our staff, officers and volunteers for the work that they've done in policing the pandemic. We've done everything humanly possible to try and keep you safe. And of course, much of the media focus on the policing of the pandemic has been about enforcement and fixed penalty notices. But those of us that work in policing know that this is just a tiny, tiny part of what we've been involved in. We have a major role to play in the local resilience partnership, where all organisations come together to manage the major incident response, working with military colleagues on logistics and planning. We've had police community support officers and neighbourhood teams do many thousands of visits to vulnerable residents across the county. We've had police cadets prepare food parcels for those really in need. Some officers came out of retirement to help with the planning work, with the provision of resources, with the supply of personal protective equipment to over 900 different organisations across the county. And of course, we had a strong role to play in managing the response to those many families, hundreds of families that have sadly been bereaved because of the pandemic. So very difficult work. And I'm really grateful for the efforts that all of the teams have put in. I'm also very grateful for your support too. In the first national lockdown, we did a survey of residents across the county, and 92% of respondents said they had real confidence in their local neighbourhood policing team and how we'd responded. And I'm really grateful that you've shown us that support. It has helped us get through a really difficult time. Turning then to our commitments to you. If you've heard me speak before or came along last year, you'll know that I have a real preventative outlook on crime. It's much better to solve it and prevent it from happening. And I'm pleased to say that our hard work is paying off in that area. Surrey is currently the 6th safest county in England and Wales and the safest county in the southeast of England. And that's no small achievement because we have a significant border with the capital, we have Europe's busiest motorway network and proximity to 2 major international airports. So I'm very grateful for all the hard work that the teams do to keep crime levels low. In protecting our communities, there is lots of work that goes on that is often unseen. Just one example of that is Operation Signature, the work that we've done to tackle romance fraud. In romance fraud, the victims last year faced losses of over £580,000, so a really significant impact and real hurt caused to those victims. And as I say, some of that work often goes unseen but deserves real credit. Our work in pursuing offenders takes lots of different forms too. In drugs, we have Operation Centurion, where we've worked together with colleagues in the Metropolitan Police, doing detailed investigative and analysis work to take out at source the drug dealing networks at the same time as we take out their supplies on the street. And that really has benefit in reducing county lines and reducing the harm that drugs causes in communities in Surrey. To keep our roads safe, we've had Operation Tramline, which gives us a HGV eyes view of dangerous driving on the road. In that operation, over 305 motorists dealt with for offences, helping to keep the roads safe for you and your loved ones. And more recently, Operation Rally. Working together with British Transport Police, we've tackled those offenders that through their theft and damage blight our county, whether that's the theft of materials from wonderful buildings across Surrey, scrap metal theft, catalytic converters, or the dumping of rubbish on the road. In that operation, we stopped over 150 suspicious vehicles and dealt with 31 offences, including licensing offences and immigration offences too. So just a few small examples of the work that we do in pursuing offenders. Of course, there's always more we can do, and the focus for this next year will be to solve more crime. If you're a victim of crime in Surrey, your chances of having it solved are not high enough, and we want to do better on that for you. Turning now to the commitments that we've made to each other. I'm a big believer that what an organisation feels like to work for has a direct bearing on the quality of service that we give in our communities. So we want the highest standards of professional behaviour. So I'm proud to say we've taken part in a project around everyday sexism, tackling head-on some of the discrimination that female colleagues might face in the workplace. We hosted an online debate where male colleagues could actively engage in the discussion and started a campaign called Not in My Force, sending a very strong message about the expectations in Surrey Police. Of course, we want to be a truly inclusive organisation too and take great pride in what we do. We celebrated Black History Month, welcoming back to Surrey's first black police officer, Dr. Victor Elisa. Vic very kindly took part in an online debate for us, which was attended by colleagues from police services around the country. And the exhibition that we put together went out into communities so you could share in that proud history too. Of course, our move to be inclusive means that we really want to represent our communities in every sense so that you can see yourselves in us. And up to November last year, we'd recruited 268 new colleagues, and there was a day in October where we attested, where we swore in 75 new police constables on the same day. We've never seen anything of that scale in Surrey before. And if that wasn't enough, we also welcomed 23 transferees to the force, some of whom were returning to us having tried out policing elsewhere. We also welcomed 56 police community support officers and 301 police staff colleagues. So it's been a really busy time for our recruitment and training teams. And the focus for the coming year will be to maintain those exceptional high standards of professional behaviour with good quality recruitment, selection, training and ongoing continuous professional development to make sure we've got the policing skills for the modern age to keep you safe. Finally, turning to the commitments about the future of the force. You know from what I've said already about the preventative outlook, and our new problem-solving team has oversight of over 350 problem-solving cases across the organisation. This is where local teams are trying to get to the root causes of crime and disorder to make sure it's designed out in the first place. Of course, this is a year where we've worked very strongly in partnership too. Policing is not an endeavour that we can do alone. We need the support from lots of different groups and organisations and from you too to keep the county safe and feeling safe. And the new partnerships that we've forged during the pandemic, I'm determined to keep going to make sure that that joint work that we've done together can give you a better quality service in future too. And finally, one of my responsibilities as Chief Constable is to get the full potential from the organisation. That's not just about making it a great place to work, where colleagues can develop their skills and give a great quality service. It's also about getting the best from our information and the technology that we deploy. And this year we've introduced a new body-worn video system, a new online system for managing our digital evidence where you can directly upload material that can help us with our investigations. And we've introduced a new digital 101 system too, where 24/7, 365 days a year, you can contact us online and expect the same quality service as you would if you called us on the telephone. And from a personal point of view, so as not to get rusty, I completed my TASER training course last year. So when I do get time to get out with the teams, I can help them to keep you safe. And on that note, it's my pleasure to introduce the Borough Commander for Woking, Inspector Dave Bentley, to give you a perspective from the local area.
Thank you, sir. Just wanted to say a quick thank you. I joined Woking in May last year, and I really appreciate the community support, not only to me but my team. Woking's a fantastic area to work, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'd like to go through a few commitments and priorities that we have locally. So the first one is community engagement, and I've been really keen to increase the amount of community engagement that you see in our communities. So what I can assure you is that we will look to have a targeted, visible presence within your neighbourhood. So you will see officers out and about, PCSOs, but they'll be targeted. They'll be there for prevention activity, pursue activity. They'll be there for a reason. We want to identify your local priorities. We want you to help us. We want you to tell us what matters to you, what are your concerns, what are your issues. So when you see us in the community, please come and have a chat and discuss those with us. Because we want that two-way dialogue. I want us to be able to have a conversation about policing in your community together. And I want us to be held accountable. And an example of that is that even during the pandemic, we've been able to do online Q&A sessions with us and your neighbourhood team to be accountable to your community. Another priority is problem solving. It's really key to problem solve those long-term issues, to be proactive in our prevention activity. So not waiting for something to happen. Let's be proactive and focus on that work. I'm keen to embrace innovation, to try something new, to lead by example for Woking, and that's working really well so far. And to understand long-term issues and trends, the causes of the causes as such, really drilling down to identify what the issues are to try and solve them. Now, Woking has a fantastic partnership network already. Woking Police play a massive role in that and will continue to do so, but I want to build on that. That's public, private, voluntary sectors. We all come together to work through those issues as a collective, and it works really, really well. And again, there's some new innovation coming to Woking starting this month around protection, prevention of young people. And also, I want to include communities within our problem solving and our crime prevention. And as you'll see through our social media work and our engagement, that will continue. So how do we focus our work? So we focus our area in Woking on adults, young people, locations and themes. And we focus our areas on prevention, using proactivity, communicating what we do and why we do it, using analysis of data to make sure that our time and efforts are focused properly. And we use legislation that's available for us to do our job effectively, such as the antisocial behaviour legislation available. But it's really key that we know our community as well. And if we know our community, we can represent you fully. So what's our team look like? So this is our team. You've got me as the Borough Commander, the Inspector, which lead the team, 2 sergeants, 8 PCs, 12 PCSOs, which are all aligned to different areas of the borough. And we've communicated that out and will continue to do so. We've got an office manager, an ASB specialist who focuses on the legislation, 2 youth engagement officers, and a licensing officer as well. And that's a fantastic array of team, and we've increased it significantly over the last 12 months, and that's brilliant for the local communities. But as you can see, we feed into a number of other teams within the force. So I just wanted to spend some time on some Woking achievements and highlight some of the good work that you might have seen. So we've been tackling bike thefts really well. We've seen a 46% reduction in bike thefts, which is fantastic. We are pursuing the offenders of drug supply and drug use, and again, you will have seen that. We've increased our use of social media because I think that's a fantastic tool for engagement. It's not the only tool, and we're really keen to make sure we have a wide spectrum of engagement opportunities, but a really good tool in its own right. We use a trauma-informed approach. So what I mean by that is we look at how and why people have experienced things in their lives and how that leads them then to offending. We've really increased our youth engagement because that's a gap that we want to develop. Problem-solved hate crime, and we've seen a reduction in hate crime this year as well, which is fantastic. We've targeted licensed premises who sell alcohol and knives to children, and we've had some fantastic joint working with Woking Borough Council on that. We've increased our speed enforcement because listening to our communities, we realised that that was a detriment and a concern of yours, and we've not only increased our capacity but our capability to do that work as well within our team. We've been preventing residential burglaries with some innovative work, which I'll go on to explain. And we've increased our confidence in tackling ASB. And by meaning that, we've got a designated unit within the team who contacts everybody who reports ASB to Woking Police and discusses the issues and any intelligence that we can gain from that. And what does that lead to? So this year we've seen all crime reduce in Woking. We've seen residential burglaries, robberies, theft, all reduce. Vehicle crime, hate crime, commercial burglary and criminal damage have all reduced. Now, police in the pandemic has had an influence on that, but it's also the contribution, the efforts of you, our community, to help drive down those crimes. And here's some of the issues and some of the community involvement in our work that's currently ongoing. So we are setting up a canal watch for the Basingstoke Canal with Neighbourhood Watch, Woking Borough Council and the Basingstoke Canal Society, which we've had really good community involvement with. We've been doing some work on the Byfleet area with burglars, and you might have seen these signs, making use of the term Byfleet Moat to just make sure that burglars know that we are doing prevention activity in their area. We are using cycle theft signs which use eyes, which are evidence tested to show that it reduces crime. And we're communicating those to every household with a regular article through the Woking Borough Council into the newsletter that you get through to your doors. So what can you expect from us at Woking Police? That we will understand and deal with what matters to you locally, that we'll treat you fairly. I think that's really key. You will have those informal contacts with us because we want to speak to you, we want to hear what you say. We'll keep you informed and updated. We care and take responsibility. We care and take your concerns seriously. You will see us. We're visible within your communities. We'll tackle those long-term problems and issues. And as we do now, what we'll continue to do is play a key role in Woking's partnership network. Just so some of the plans to finish on for our plans for the future. Tackling drugs in our community is a big priority for me in the future. The drug issue and connections with associated crimes is a big concern, and I think we as a partnership can really do some good work in driving that down. We're going to continue to develop our trauma-informed approach. So we look at that through children and we look at that through young people, but we are keen to develop that further. We will build and use detailed analysis to target our activity. So where we do work and where we do our prevention activity, we'll be there for a reason, and we'll use data to help us with that. We'll continue listening to our communities in a number of different ways, adapting to where is best possible to do, like we've done with our online service. We're going to carry on with our youth engagement work, and that will continue, and you'll see more about that coming through as the COVID pandemic comes to an end in the future. We're going to effectively tackle ASB through the appropriate legislation, closure orders, community protection notices and warnings. And we will tell you what we're doing and why we're doing it, because I think that's really important. Inform you of what we've done and why. And we're going to prevent further residential burglaries, because we really truly understand the impact that that has on individuals and families when their homes get burgled. And just a thank you from me. And if you'd like to be involved in some of our work, we'd really encourage you to get in contact with us through our social media channels, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Dave, thanks very much indeed for that. Now, the most important part of the event is to hear from yourself. Has anyone got any questions or comments? We'll do our best to answer them. Good evening, I'm David Munro. I'm the Police and Crime Commissioner for Surrey. What you've just seen are 3 presentations which we recorded a few days ago, but the same team is now live. It'll be myself, of course, the Chief Constable of Surrey Police, Gavin Stevens, and the Borough Commander for Woking, Inspector Dave Bentley. I think there have been some problems with some people getting on to this link, but we do have some people with questions already coming in. The presentations will be put up on Surrey Police's website, so if you've missed any of that, you'll get a second chance. And as a lot of people have tuned in, and I'm really pleased about that, but it does mean we probably won't get through all the questions. But again, if you don't get your questions answered, then we will get back to you. We're recording them all, so you will get an answer at the end. So I think I'd also like to say that Sergeant Ed Lyons from Inspector Bentley's team, he will be answering some other questions online, so you've got a double chance of getting answered. So let's go straight on. Question 1, what's the clear-up rate of solving crimes committed, and how does this compare with neighbouring forces? Chief, for you first, and then of course over to Woking.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Commissioner. Well, for those that did see the introduction, you'll have heard me say that we want to improve our performance in clearing up crimes. When a crime is investigated, there are 21 different ways that it can be concluded under the Home Office rules, and a subcategory of those 21 count as being detected or solved. That doesn't mean to say that we don't have contact with suspects in other outcomes. Often we might have a good idea who've done it, good intelligence, we might have intervened, but not necessarily sort of officially detected it. Our performance as at this month is that we've cleared up about 14.8% of all crimes, so that's well over 10,500 offences solved. Typically, solved rate for forces ranges between 12 and 18%, so we're just in the middle of that range, but we absolutely want to do better. And I'll ask Dave to give a view on local figures.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. So from a local perspective, I would agree with Mr. Stevens in that we're always striving to do as best as we can in relation to how we solve crimes and give a really good satisfaction to our victims. Just to give a bit of a flavour really for us here in Woking in the last year, so this is kind of financial year to date, we've seen increases in solved outcome rates of 22% for hate crime, which is fantastic. For drug-related offences, we've seen a 14% increase in solved outcomes. We've seen only a slight increase of 1.4% in domestic violence, which I'd really like to increase. But there's some really good couple of examples about what we're doing really well with our solved outcome rate locally in Woking.
Great, thank you very much. And from my point of view, the crime solving rate is one of the key priorities for next year. Surrey Police are okay at solving crimes, but of course they want to be much, much better than okay. So that's going to be the big one for next year as well, and an enormous amount of resources are being put into that, as we've explained. Could I just say, I understand there were some technical problems, but the more people are getting on, tuning in now, thank you. So anybody who's just joined us, welcome. We've only missed one question, and the second question is for me, what will I do to make myself and my goals more visible to the populace? Well, I do my best, I promise you. Before COVID struck, I was always out and about the county. I met tens of thousands of residents, to hear their hopes and their fears and what they wanted from policing. That's part of my job, is to act as your link. It's most of it online now, I'm afraid. It's got to be. And this event is one of them, of course. But I've got my own personal social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner has also got that trio, or email me or phone me. All the details are on my website. I really like to hear from you, but with over 1 million residents in Surrey, I do admit it sometimes gets a bit difficult, but keep trying. Now, question 3. Are the police in Woking reactive rather than proactive? And the questioner gives the example of a lady on an e-scooter nearly colliding with her husband near the town centre. Are we doing anything about e-scooters on roads and footpaths, Dave?
Yes, so I think there's 2 parts to that question. The first part is about whether or not we are proactive, and I'd really like to stress that we are. Proactive policing is really one of our key focuses, and we've done some fantastic work so far in relation to youth engagement, our burglary work, and our theft of bicycle work. When it comes down to e-scooters, the approach we've taken so far is through education and engagement so far in relation to the users and the purchasers of those e-scooters locally. If we need to, we'll be in a position to enforce, but we'd really like the community to get on board and not buy these things and use them in the way that they are for the safety of all our community. Thank
you very much indeed for that. Question 4 is local as well. Somebody's wanting speed limits and road bumps in Rosebery Avenue, which is in Old Woking. Dave, has this crossed your horizon? That specific road hasn't as yet, but certainly we can take it away. We are aware, because we've done 2 previous Facebook Live events, Q&As with our local communities, which have worked really well, and speeding came through significantly. And we've been able to not only increase our capability to enforce speeding locally, we're training some new officers, but our capacity, we're spending more time doing that as our team increases. So I'll take that road away and just do some digging for you, but we're certainly doing it more because we know that it's such a key issue for the community. Okay. And speed bumps, of course, is for the Highways Authority, Surrey County Council, but I know you work very closely with them, and that's how you solve traffic problems, by joint working with the police on the enforcement side and the Highways Authority to make our roads safer. Thank you. Now, another local one. There are so many cycles on the road at night without rear reflectors, lights or bells and hooters. Is this not illegal? Surely. Dave, what do you do about them? Well, yeah, good question. It's a cycling town, isn't it? It is. It's a fantastic cycling town, and the council have put out some brilliant provisions for cyclists locally, which we really encourage. So it's not a problem that I've identified myself while I've been travelling in the area at night, or raised to me previously. We certainly can do some work with that jointly with the council and some cycling enthusiasts around, making sure we've got that education. We all want people to be safe on the roads, whether that's in a car or in a bike or walking along the pavement. So we can certainly work on some education around that and help support the community. Good. And we're back to electric scooters, question 6, and some of them haven't got lights either. Would you just like to comment on what's the law relating to electric scooters without light? Presumably it's the same as any bicycle. Yeah, well, it's the same as any mechanically propelled vehicle. As a scooter comes under, in relation to the legislation, you should have insurance and tax in order to do that, and registered number plate, etc. So the law around mechanically propelled vehicles is the same as it should be for electric scooters. So I'd rather not see them on the roads at all, is my advice. Thank you very much indeed. Now, what's the ratio of admin staff to officers on the front line? Has the ratio improved or got worse? Chief, one for you.
Yeah, well, I'll give some figures, but then just maybe get into what the questioner means about admin staff. So as at November, our figures, we had 2,061 police officers, 1,813 police staff. But it's really important to recognise that police staff are operational. So a police community support officer is a member of police staff, a detention officer in custody is a member of police staff, a crime scene investigator is a member of police staff, somebody that puts the prosecution files together for speeding, the offences we've been talking about, police staff. So these are all operational roles, and I think it's a false distinction now really to talk about the difference between police officers and police staff, because policing is a huge team effort. If the question is really talking about how much money do we spend on back office, very little. The vast majority of the Surrey Police budget goes into the operational policing part. Quite a bit in IT as well. We need a lot of technology now to make sure that we can police effectively. But that balance between officers and staff is really important that we get that right.
Thank you very much. I wish there was some other word we could use. Staff, some people think staff mean back office staff, but as you've explained, the vast majority are operational right there on the streets with our warranted police officers, and long may that remain so. Now, one for me. What, if any, council tax, a police precept, I guess, increase are you planning this year? I'll be making my formal recommendation to the Police and Crime Panel on Friday. So what I say is provisional, but I'm going to be recommending a 5.5% increase. That's £15 a year, £1.25p a month. Extra on a Band D average house. That's the maximum that government is allowing me. Most police forces up and down the country are taking the maximum, and that's my recommendation for Surrey. Why am I doing that? Firstly, I should say it's the most difficult decision. I have to make this decision every year, and it's never been more difficult, because I do recognise that while people generally think that the police deserve more funding, people are telling me constantly, and I really feel sympathy with them, that in this COVID year, they simply can't afford it. So it's an extremely difficult balance. So my recommendation covers two things. Firstly, you're going to get a lot for that money. It's going to be 77 extra police officers and staff. And as I've explained before, the vast majority will be operational. They'll be out there making our county safer. And the details, in my earlier presentation, those who picked it up, and also on my website. So you're getting a lot for your money. And secondly, I need to look you in the eye and say your money is going to be well spent. Every pound is worth it. And that means the police have got to be efficient. I believe they are. There's always more to go. Of course there is, but challenging saving targets. So I think you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. But my consultation has got 2 days more to run. Do let me know what you think. I promise to read every single comment and wait out for Friday when my Police and Crime Panel will make the final decision. Now, question 9. This is for you again, Dave. Presumably some days are busier than others for your response officers. Do you have a measure that describes how stretched you are? In practice, are you frequently overstretched? Well, we can all answer the last one, which is yes, but it's more complicated than that, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say you're right. Demand fluctuates. Can be significantly at times, but I wouldn't describe Woking as overstretched or stretched. I think we've got a great team, both from the neighbourhood team and your local response officers. That when we need to, we're there in the right places at the right times. And when there are times where maybe the demand isn't there for us, we're able to be proactive. And I mentioned that earlier, but actually be efficient and effective in the areas that you need us to be in. And that's why tonight is such a key to listen and hear from you about what your concerns are. So I am confident we've got the right numbers in the right places at the right time for Woking.
And you will be getting more?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. Question 10, another local one. Any plans to address the regular visits from loud exhaust vehicles gathering in Woking Park, the car park under the football pitches? What about some barriers? Not strictly a policing matter, but Dave, I'm sure you're very concerned about this.
Yeah, we're aware of it, and we pay the area quite a lot of attention. So others might know it as what they call the 3G pitches and 3G car park that's underneath it, and we do spend quite a lot of attention there, making sure we're talking to the people that use it, and certainly during COVID times making sure that they're not inappropriately using an area to congregate, because obviously they use it as an area for shelter because of it keeps them out of the rain. So we are there, we spend a lot of time there with our PCSO colleagues doing a fantastic job.
Great. Thank you very much indeed for that. Now, question 11, this is more general. I'm going to start off and then over to the Chief. Sorry I couldn't access the presentation. We're sorry too. As I said before, do get onto the Surrey Police website and we will be putting up all the presentations on that. Could you say what is the biggest challenge you are facing in 2021 and what the community can do to help, not hinder? Well, I'm sure they won't hinder. The biggest challenge is getting through COVID. How can it not be the biggest challenge at the moment? But let's try and look beyond COVID if we can. My three priorities are to get more police and operational staff in our communities on the streets. We've made a very good start and we're doing better. And crucially is crime prevention. And part of that is community reassurance so that our police officers are visible. Not always easy because there's all sorts of things for them to do. They can't be literally on every street corner. And thirdly, challenge is to up the crime solving rate, which is okay, but we can do better. Chief, I'm sure you've got things you want to say on this. Yeah, I'm going to come back to you, Dave. What are your Woking challenges as well?
Yeah, I'll say something briefly on crime, but I think the broader challenge for all of us as a community across Surrey is how we rebuild after the pandemic, because people have been, affected financially, socially. We see real problems with our children and young people and their mental health and those issues coming to us. So how we pull together as a community to support each other with all of those different challenges after the pandemic, I think is something that the police very much will play a part of. If I was to pick one crime area throughout the pandemic and as lockdown lifts, we're very worried about domestic abuse. So we will always want to do more on that crime. If you managed to catch the presentation at the front, you'll have heard the Commissioner talk about the investment in the new refuge, for example. So one example from me at a force level, but I'm sure Dave's got local issues as well.
Yeah, from a local perspective, for me, I share the concerns around domestic violence, and I'd like to see an increase in reporting so we can effectively deal with that in our community. But for me, there's one of my challenges is dealing with drug-related crime and drug-related offences. We've seen an increase during lockdown, specifically on drug use, and something that we'll be looking at tackling. And I know there's a question coming up next in relation to that. But also antisocial behaviour and the impacts that it has on our community is certainly not lost with us. And how can we effectively tackle that efficiently using all available legislation? So when I talk about the legislation, I talk about the Antisocial Behaviour Act. It's a fantastic tool that we can use to help save and protect our community from that kind of behaviour. So those are the kind of challenges we face at the moment.
Thank you. And the last part of the question was, how can the community help? Well, the first obvious one is everybody please obey the law yourselves. If everybody obeys the law, you'll put us out of a job. That won't happen, of course. But the second one thing, seriously, crucially, Dave and Chief, I know you'll sign up to this. We need to hear about what's going on in your locality, your street, your neighbourhood. If you don't report it, we may not know about it and we can't even start. So the mantra is always report, 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 and at least then we're in with a chance of solving it. So thank you very much for that question. Now, question 12, how's the Woking Force clamping down on drug dealing and use in the area, especially dealing on scooters and cars late at night, which means response units are too slow sometimes. Dave is right at the heart of what you do.
Yes, so I personally feel we tackle drug dealing significantly well in Woking. Have had some fantastic results, which you might have seen in the press recently, and will continue to do. There's a new piece of work which starts on Monday in Woking, which looks at a different way of tackling drug use, where we're looking at supporting the drug user. So if you imagine looking at problem solving that kind of issue, you look at the drug dealing, the drug location where it takes place, but we're going to focus, as well as focusing on the drug dealing, on the drug user and how we can support them out of using drugs for the long term, and how that can help us in our associated crime. So we'll be focusing our work on that. In relation to working all different times of day, our teams work across the 24-hour spectrum in our response teams, and we make sure that they're fully briefed on what they need to do, where they need to go, and who to look out for.
Thanks very much. If I can just go back to the previous question, how can the community help? I missed out one important thing. We depend crucially on volunteers as well, whether it's Community Speedwatch, whether you're helping out, analysing data. Our police cadets are doing great work as well. If you have time on your hands, please volunteer. And of course, I must end with the fantastic work that our special constables do. We depend on them as well. I really admire them. They got a hard day job, and yet they still turn out, and they are warranted police officers, an integral part of Surrey Police. So thank you for all that. Now, question 13. The current policing attitude to theft. Well, I'll tell you now, we're against it. And it seems that a substantial theft in this neighbourhood is not being prioritised. Dave, your comments, please.
Yes, theft is prioritised, as with all investigations here in Woking. What I would say is we've seen a dramatic decrease in theft offences. So if you look at, again, on financial year to date, and if you've seen me on any previous meetings, I quite like my stats. So we've seen a 30.5% reduction in theft offences in Woking alone. Residential burglaries are down 23.1%, and we've seen vehicle crime, and in particular theft from vehicles, down 41.4% in Woking. So whilst we do prioritise it, we're really pleased that it's on the reduction, and just thank all the residents for their involvement in that.
Great, thank you very much indeed. Chief, is there anything you want to say on Surrey-wide?
Well, only that our call takers, when they take in the reports, will do a really careful assessment and listen to the whole circumstances around it. And that really informs the approach that we take with the investigation. And so we look for risks to the victim, what harm has been caused, and so on, and what lines of inquiry are available, as Dave has been explaining. So it's definitely something that we do take seriously.
Absolutely. Right. Will you be opening for police constable recruitment soon? Chief, you can answer that, I know.
Well, yeah, we're heavily recruiting. So if you happen to have checked just when the recruiting window is closed, check back soon, because there's going to be lots more recruiting going on throughout the course of the year. You can register your interest. There are a whole range of different ways that you can join the police now. We have entry programs for degree holders. You can join us as an apprenticeship and effectively get a degree for free by doing your training, which is accredited by the universities. You can come in directly as a detective on a new scheme that we've launched. So lots of different ways to join policing, and of course lots of other roles aside from being a police officer: crime scene investigators, police community support officers. So it's a great time to be joining policing, and thanks very much for your interest. Check back at the website soon if you're keen to join us.
That's great. We want as many recruits as we can handle. Now, how was last year's update, that's a precept increase, I guess, spent? Didn't police forces get funding from the government for extra officers? Chief, you can you know how many people you've got, of course, and then I'll probably end up. And Dave, I'd like to know what the uplift is in your part of the world last of all.
Yeah, so we did get an allocation from the 20,000 increase. We've been recruiting those heavily through the year. As I mentioned, if you managed to see the presentation at the front, we recruited 268 throughout the course of the year. Of course, that's more than the uplift because we have to plan for retirements and so on. and plans for more this year. So more than 70 coming through the uplifts. There's some officers going into our regional organised crime functions as well that Surrey benefits from. But Commissioner, I know you've got a view from the Precept as well.
Very much so. It's not just the government uplift, it's very much the uplift which is paid for by yourselves, Surrey residents, through their council tax. A lot in, they're not all there yet out on the streets in our communities, although some are. It takes a bit of time to train and recruit, but I promise you they will be there, and there will be more to come next year. Dave, how many extra have you got under your command?
So in relation to my Safer Neighbourhood team, we've had an increase. Well, we had 4 Safer Neighbourhood officers, police officers before, but now we've got 8, which is fantastic. And they are all very keen, enthusiastic, very, very good officers who are willing to learn. So we've seen a dramatic increase, which allows us to do so much more. Allows us to do so much more for the community and keeping them safe. So just a big thank you from me.
Great. Thank you very much indeed. Now,
Commissioner, on that point, I've just checked when our next evening recruitment event is. So for the questioner that was interested, so on the 25th of February at 6 in the evening, we're holding an online recruitment event. So if you check our website, you can register to attend then as well.
That's great. Thank you very much. Question 15, back to the local. Are you aware of drivers speeding along Shawes Road and Woodham Lane, especially at quiet times of the day? Motorbikes seem to treat it as a racetrack, Dave.
Yeah, so I'm aware of Woodham Lane, and actually I was speaking to the email the local councillor actually today around Woodham Lane, so we're aware of that. Shawes Road is a new one for me, but we'll take that away and look at that. What I would say is we've actually changed the times in which we do our speed enforcement, because we noticed that maybe early in the mornings when people are travelling to work, they're maybe not adhering to the speed limit as they should. So we made sure our enforcement reflected that. And we were out at 5 a.m. onwards in order to make sure that we enforce them at those times of the day. So certainly I'll take those 2 areas away with us, and we'll update you on what we're doing.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, one for you again. The questioner says, I was surprised to see more than 12 police vehicles in the multi-storey car park in Woking. That's Brewers Road, isn't it? Late morning about 4 weeks ago. Why weren't those vehicles out patrolling Surrey roads?
Yeah, so good question. So if people might not know that that's where we park our vehicles, but that's where we use our vehicle fleet to maintain and respond to. We have a number of vehicles across a number of teams. So whilst it looks like quite a lot of vehicles, they're across quite a number of individual roles and responsibilities. Also, there are times where they need to come back into the office. We encourage them to stay out as much as they can, but there are times where they need to come back in, maybe liaise with their supervisor or update a report or be able to do some of their paperwork or speak to a colleague. So in relation to that, they were probably in for a very good legitimate reason, but I understand maybe your frustration at seeing 12 that's out there.
Thank you very much. And I would, Chief, would you like to talk about one of the projects that's going on, which is reviewing our fleet?
Yeah, so one of the technology projects that we've been looking at over the course of the last year, which will carry over to the next, is telemetry on our vehicles. So that means we can assess exactly what mileage they're doing, what routes they're doing, which type of vehicles get the most use, and which vehicles are unpopular and not getting used. So we can really sort of refresh and modernise our fleet, make sure we've got the right numbers. In the last few years as well, we've invested quite heavily in electric vehicles as well for those local enquiries, and we have some commitments as part of our plans to the environment too. So we absolutely want to get the balance right. But as Dave was saying, there are times when colleagues need to be back in the station completing important reports and so on.
Yeah, but it is a focus for us. I have had other complaints, not strictly Woking, that we got too many vehicles. So there's a big project, the Chief has said, to make quite sure that we're using all our vehicles as efficiently as possible, because they all cost money. Now, the Police Commissioner is up for re-election. What's the current Commissioner's manifesto for the next term? Is there a programme that can be reviewed by potential voters? I'm not going to treat you to my campaign speech. It's not the time or the place. But yes, the election is currently planned for the 6th of May. I personally wouldn't be surprised if it's postponed a month or two because of COVID, but that's the date in the calendar at the moment. I haven't pressed the button for my campaign, but I will, and I hope you'll be hearing about it. But I'd just like to say that I will have three main priorities. First of all, to continue the recruitment of extra officers and staff, badly needed, and they'll do a great job. Secondly, to concentrate on crime prevention, because that's how you judge a police force, Sir Robert Peel said all those years ago, about how it prevents crime. And we do that by partly by having more officers and staff on the streets with community reassurance. The community know what where their police are, so they report more easily, and so on. And lastly, talked about it before, the crime solving rate needs to be improved, and a lot of work needs to be done on that. So I won't go on to that anymore. I hope you'll be hearing from me, and of course anybody else who wants to stand for Police Commissioner in the months ahead. How do we volunteer? Short and sharp.
Yep, now I can help with that. So the best way to find out about our volunteering opportunities is to go to our website, which is surrey.police.uk. If you there's a big button on that website that talks about careers. It's got all of the different ways, and you can join the police. And under that section, there's a big button that says volunteering. So if you click on the volunteering button, it'll give you all the necessary contact details and a summary of the different sort of volunteering vacancies that we have. There's an email address link there as well. We have an excellent volunteering manager that looks after the whole team. So really keen to hear your interest. And I know that Dave, as the local commander, will be up for ideas too. So if you wanted to contact the Woking Beat team, then I'm sure they'll be pleased to hear from you as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm going to take the next question, and then I'm going to ask the Chief Constable to brief us on the events that are happening actually in parts of Woking with testing of the new variant and so on. But let's take the next question. I had to speak to the police on Sunday and tried to go online to save the wait time. Right at the top was report someone breaking coronavirus guidelines, and also report an illegal gathering. And way down at the bottom was report domestic abuse. Shouldn't that be in a different order? Strange bias, says the questioner.
Well, yeah, no, it's an interesting point. We structure those contacts by the volume that we get, and of course we've been having many thousands of reports of breaking of coronavirus guidelines, so we make that easily accessible for people. Reporting domestic abuse online, sometimes we want to make that a little bit more discreet as well. Sometimes people might be worried about being overlooked on their phone or their iPad or their computer. So you can also report domestic abuse to us on any of our social channels as well, through private messaging. There'll always be somebody there to chat to you 24/7, 365 days a year. We are finding that people find that quite a discreet way to make contact with us. So maybe not to raise attention within the household, which may cause you problems. Or of course, you can reach out to any of the outreach support services across Surrey as well. The big message though is if you are suffering from domestic violence or domestic abuse, you don't have to obey the lockdown rules. You are allowed to leave home and seek help. We are there to help you along with our partner agencies as well.
Thank you very much. And just while we're waiting for more questions, there are a couple coming in now. Then could you, Chief or Dave, could you just brief us all on what is happening on the extra testing which is being done in parts of Woking?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. So as people have no doubt seen on the national and local news, as the Local Resilience Forum, so that's the police, fire, local authorities, whole range of other partners. We received a request at the end of last week from our colleagues in health to assist with the mass testing exercise. Really important that we put this into perspective. It originated from 2 cases in the local area of the South African variant of the virus that weren't linked to international travel. So the idea is that we do a census or a surveillance exercise to see whether there is spread within the local community and help inform health colleagues about what steps they take next. So the Health wanted to get an initial sample of around 10,000 people, so hence the area within GU21. Really important to look at the map on Woking Borough Council website as well, because I know there was a lot of concern that it was the whole of GU21, which is enormous. It's not the whole of GU21. If you're concerned, look at the map on the website, and we'll make it really easy for you. The volunteers are calling door to door, handing out the test kits, entirely voluntary to do that test. But of course, our health colleagues would really appreciate it if you did take part so they can get a good assessment. It's completely free. You won't be asked for any money. Nobody will want to come into your home. But if any adults in the house can take a test kit, and then that one will be specially screened for the South African variant of the virus, and indeed any variant. So you'll get your result back in the normal way within about 3 days. And of course, I'm sure we will find cases, because as we know, lots of people carry this virus asymptomatically.
Yeah. And Dave, I know the police are involved, very much so.
Yes, yeah, very much so, part of it. But we're more from a local team there to support and reassure and make sure that we're helping and supporting our partnership colleagues, really. So you will see our team and your local team and some officers on the ground, so on foot patrol day and night, there for support and reassurance to help not only the community but our colleagues who are delivering the tests and part of the wider effort.
Okay, thank you. And there's still people are finding difficulty accessing us, but there is another question that's come in. What percentage of policing is affected by coronavirus, and how would you rate the public response to the rules? Well, in a sentence, the public are behaving magnificently, aren't they, in Surrey, but not absolutely everybody. Chief, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think communities across Surrey have come together fantastically to get through the last year. To put it in context, with well over 1 million residents in the county, we've issued 690 enforcement tickets. A number of those are from people travelling from outside the county as well. And only a few of the bigger £10,000 fines. So on balance, I think communities have been fantastic. And of course, it's not just the additional demand on policing that the coronavirus brings, but it's also the effect that it has on our workforce as well. And sadly, we've lost colleagues to coronavirus. We've had many officers and staff that have been ill with it. And we have to keep a careful eye on our abstraction rate as well. I'm really pleased to say that we're seeing more colleagues return to work now, that the numbers are decreasing, as we're seeing across the county in the general population as well. But it's still really important to remain vigilant, because we're definitely not through the other side of this pandemic yet.
Thank you very much. Dave, I'm going to come to you in a moment and to ask you just to give a summary of your priorities in Woking Borough for the future. We don't seem to have any more questions, so that may be because of technical problems, or maybe just people haven't got any questions. So there's still 12 minutes to go. If anyone out there would like to ask another question, a supplementary or another question, please feel free. We'd really like to answer it. But while you do that, Dave, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes just talking about what our priorities are and our work for the future. So we're going to continue to build on our community engagement, and I'm really pleased to be here tonight and have this opportunity to talk about issues which are affecting you in the local community. But we're going to continue that in a number of different ways, but really keen to hear what concerns you have, what issues you think we are facing, and also for us to be accountable. It is a big one for me, is being accountable to you, the public of Woking. So that's going to increase. I'm keen to tackle drugs and its related criminality in our community. And that's from a prevention aspect, because I think that's the way forward. I'm a big fan of prevention work in our long-term policing strategy, and I think there's a lot of work we can do that together in Woking. To continue our burglary reduction, like I said earlier, we've had a 23% reduction in burglaries, which is fantastic. A lot of that comes down to our community putting in crime prevention measures, looking at their houses and how they're structured, their sheds, their outbuildings, and putting in measures themselves. So a massive thank you for me in that, and we'll continue to support you in any which way we can. And then finally, for me, is about working in partnerships. Woking's got some brilliant organisations and agencies, whether that's public, private, or certainly voluntary, and we've really thoroughly enjoyed working with them. And our plan is to continue and build on that in the year to come.
Thank you very much indeed for that. We don't have any questions coming. I suspect that some people haven't been able to access, which I apologise. We will post all the presentations on our website, as we said, and we will get back to every person who has actually registered to attend here, and of course answered that question. But we to 8:05, we're just ending slightly early. But Chief, is there anything any farewell message you'd like to give?
Well, just to say to the 30 or so people that are still online, I really appreciate you taking your time out of the evening to take an interest in the policing of the county and show support to the local team. That means an awful lot to us. If you had friends, families and acquaintances that you also know were trying to join tonight, please do pass on our apologies to them. From what I'm hearing, it was rather a lot of people were all trying to join at the same time at the beginning, which caused some problems. So we apologise for that, and as the Commissioner said, we'll get the content out on our website and also on our social media feeds too. But thanks ever so much for joining us this evening.
Great. And the final from me is that my consultation, not just on the precept but on policing generally, ends at 9 o'clock on Friday, 2 days' time. And so we'd really like to hear from as many people as possible. Do get onto my website to do that. So with that, thank you very much for those who managed to tune in, and we'll all say good night. Cheerio.
Bye, good night.